The future of relations between the European Union and the United Kingdom continues to be a pivotal issue as both entities navigate the complexities of the post-Brexit landscape. Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK Labour Party and the Prime Minister, recently undertook a significant diplomatic tour of European capitals, meeting with key EU leaders like German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron. Starmer's visit aimed to establish a dialogue and lay the groundwork for a renewed relationship between the UK and the EU. However, the visit also exposed significant differences in opinions and expectations, particularly regarding economic cooperation, regulatory alignment, and political sovereignty. Moreover, demands by Scholz and Macron highlighted the challenges that lie ahead in forging a new partnership, as Starmer firmly emphasized that rejoining the EU is out of the question, and he denied other offers. And this video explores the key issues in the future of EU-UK relations as revealed by Starmer's visit, focusing on the areas of economic cooperation, regulatory alignment, political trust, and the broader geopolitical context. And a central issue during Starmer's visit was the future of economic cooperation and trade relations between the UK and the EU. Brexit led to the UK's departure from the EU single market and the customs union, introducing tariffs, regulatory barriers, and customs checks that have disrupted trade. And Starmer sought to address these disruptions by advocating for a reduction in trade friction, particularly to assist UK businesses that have been hampered by the complexities of exporting to the EU. In meeting with Chancellor Scholz and President Macron, Starmer outlined his vision for a closer trading relationship, potentially involving a customs agreement or enhanced regulatory cooperation. However, both Scholz and Macron made it clear that any improvements in trade relations would require the UK to align more closely with EU regulations and standards. And Scholz emphasized the importance of maintaining a level playing field to ensure fair competition, while Macron insisted that any relaxation of trade barriers would necessitate the UK adhering to EU norms, particularly in areas like environmental standards and labour rights. And Starmer's reaction was cautious, yet firm. While he expressed a willingness to explore ways to reduce trade barriers, he was clear that this would not involve the UK compromising its post-Brexit sovereignty. Starmer reiterated that the UK would not rejoin the single market or the customs union, and that any future trade agreements would have to respect the UK's ability to set its own rules and regulations. There will not be new trade agreements, by the way. This stance highlighted a fundamental divergence in expectations, with the EU leaders pushing for closer alignment and Starmer resisting any moves that could be seen as a step back towards EU membership. The question of regulatory alignment proved to be another contentious issue during Starmer's visits before and after his election. Since Brexit, the UK has pursued a policy of regulatory divergence, aiming to establish its own standards in areas such as environmental protection, labour rights, and product safety. And this approach is seen within the UK as a way to reclaim sovereignty and boost competitiveness. However, Scholz and Macron both expressed concerns about the potential impact of this divergence on the EU single market. Macron in particular stressed that any future additional agreements between the UK and the EU would require the UK to align more closely with EU regulations, especially in sectors where divergence could lead to unfair competition. And Scholz echoed these sentiments, warning that too much divergence could strain the relationship and undermine the trust needed for cooperation. Starmer acknowledged these concerns, but maintained a firm stance that regulatory alignment would not come at the expense of UK sovereignty. He emphasized that while the UK is open to dialogue on regulatory matters, he once again said he would not rejoin the EU regulatory framework or submit to oversight by EU institutions. And Starmer's position underscored the delicate balancing act he faces, seeking to improve economic relations with the EU while upholding the principle of UK's sovereignty. That's a key issue that Brexit was meant to address. And the issue of political trust was another significant theme during Starmer's meetings with EU leaders. Brexit has left a legacy of mistrust between the UK and the EU, particularly due to the contentious negotiations and subsequent disputes over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Both Scholz and Macron emphasized the need for the UK to fully implement the agreements reached during the Brexit negotiations, particularly the Northern Ireland Protocol, which aims to prevent a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And Starmer sought to kind of rebuild trust by committing to a more cooperative and constructive approach to EU-UK relations. He assured both Scholz and Macron that under his Labour government, the UK will seek to resolve outstanding issues in a spirit of partnership rather than confrontation. However, he has also made it clear that while the UK is committed to finding practical solutions, it would not revisit the core elements of the Brexit agreements. No, that was not Starmer, that was Scholz, including the TCA. And both EU leaders welcomed Starmer's tone overall about the partnership stuff and the willingness to engage, but they remained skeptical about the UK's long-term commitment to the agreements already in place. The need to rebuild political trust remains a significant challenge for future EU-UK relations, with both sides needing to demonstrate a genuine commitment to resolving issues and avoiding further conflicts. And finally, the broader geopolitical context in which EU-UK relations are situated was a key topic of discussion during Starmer's visits. Both the UK and the EU face significant global challenges, including the rise of China, the ongoing war in Ukraine, and the need to address climate change. And these issues require coordinated responses, and there is a recognition on both sides that closer cooperation could enhance their ability to address these challenges effectively. However, the visits also highlighted differing perspectives on how to approach these global challenges. Scholz and Starmer agree on further talks and negotiations for kind of a bilateral agreement that only will be about some safety, security, and other cooperations that are not that are national principles inside the EU, and not the EU has to decide about them. There can be bilateral agreements. In the next days, I will talk about in another video where the points are where the national states are deciding on their own and they can diverge in acting with the EU, with the UK, and where are those areas where the EU has to decide as a whole and can only do agreements for the whole EU. So I will introduce that this week as well, because there's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of confusion about these things, even in the UK governments at the time, when we all remember Frost talking about bilateral trade agreement between the UK and Germany. Well, I said it at the time, even in my video, that is not a thing that is possible. And that's why I will also make a video on that in this week. But I think Brexit is far from over, and the consequences will run for decades. But even Brexit has not fully been implemented, and that is why I will have to talk a lot about this also this week. And if you want to see another video, the next one is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.